Hi, I'm Laurie Tingley. I'm the pastor at Mays Chapel United Methodist Church, and welcome to this few minutes of God Talk, a few minutes to remind ourselves who we are and to whom we belong. This is the Sunday of Epiphany. Epiphany is January 6th, so you can celebrate it the Sunday before or Sunday after. We are celebrating Epiphany this Sunday, and so the text for Epiphany traditionally is this, and it's a long one, but it's the story that we're told about the Magi seeking out and discovering the Christ child, as told in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 23. All right. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born, King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Christ child was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this was what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star that they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When the Magi had departed, an angel from the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod will soon search for the child in order to kill him." Joseph got up and during the night took the child and his mother to Egypt. He stayed there until Herod died. This fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet, "I have called my son out of Egypt." When Herod knew the Magi had fooled him, he grew very angry. He sent soldiers to all the children in Bethlehem and in all the surrounding territory who were 2 years old and younger, according to the time that he had learned from the Magi. This fulfilled the word spoken through Jeremiah the prophet. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and much grieving, Rachel weeping for her children, and she did not want to be comforted because they were no more. After King Herod died, an angel from the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. "Get up," the angel said, "and take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel. Those who were trying to kill the child are dead." Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus ruled over Judea in place of his father Herod, Joseph was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he went to the area of Galilee. He settled in a city called Nazareth, so that when what was spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled, he will be called a Nazarene. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. How often have you had the experience of asking someone, "Don't you see this? Something is in plain sight to you." Think teenagers standing in front of an open refrigerator door, claiming there is nothing to eat. "Don't you see a refrigerator full of food? Can't you figure something out?" No. How about the pile of laundry or whatever it is that just sits by the steps waiting to be taken upstairs, but nobody sees it, right? It's not hard for us to become so accustomed to something or just to be so in our own worlds that we actually just don't see, don't see somebody standing right in front of us. I was fortunate enough this Christmas break to go to Florida. Our daughter moved to Florida this summer, and we went, she lives in Tampa now, and we went to a beach called Madeira Beach. I'd never been there before. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I have to say, a nice little break in December. We got to spend a couple days on the beach. And I found myself kind of lost in the activity of shell hunting. And I'm like the next person when they're on a beach, you notice a nice shell, you pick it up, but I've never really sought after them. And I didn't really intend to do that on this trip. And yet something caught my eye. This mollusk shell, perfectly formed, both halves were wide open, and they just lay there looking like butterfly wings or angel wings. And so I had to pick it up. And then I started noticing another and another. And soon I found myself, once my eyes adjusted to it, what I thought was a 1 in a million, oh my gosh, look at this, I've never seen this before, was all over the place. And I'd see one and it was more beautiful than the next. Once I really started looking and seeing, I had to be, pulled away. In fact, family members would just wander down, what you doing? And stay with me for a little bit, but then they'd wander back away, right? I was lost because I had seen everyone that I picked up was different. Everyone was beautiful and unique. Lots of white, lots of purples, yellows. It was just this wild array of colors, and then each one had this. If you couldn't have painted them like this, they were gorgeous, and then in all different sizes. Some were the size of my thumb, and then others were smaller than the tip of my index finger. The tip of my pinky finger. But I found myself with hundreds of them, just collecting, just in awe of the beauty of nature. And with each new one I saw, it was like, oh, I would have missed this. I didn't know they could come in this color. I didn't know they could come in this combination. It was kind of amazing. But it made me think about really looking. How many times do we miss beauty, something all around us, and we just don't have eyes to see it? Our eyes aren't adjusted to it. You feel yourself moving through your life and your day, just kind of not see. Have you ever wondered mid-morning whether you fed your dog in the morning, or whether you turned the stove off, or whether you don't actually see things. You don't actually move through your day. You move through your routine, and things become background noise, right? It's just there. What are we not seeing? What are we moving away from? Who are we not seeing? How long has that cough been going on? Well, I don't know, right? When did you start feeling this way? I don't know, right? It just, things keep creeping up on us. I found myself thinking about a book that I've just recently discovered, and I think I've mentioned it before, but it is quickly becoming one of my favorites, and I highly recommend it. It's called This Here Flesh by Nicole Arthur Riley. But I knew in my beach wanderings, I came home and looked for this passage that I had read. And so I want to read it to you now because it really fits in with this theme for the Magi, this theme for the day, this theme for Epiphany, that aha moments, those places of discovery, right? And she says this: I think awe is an exercise, both a doing and a being. It is a spiritual muscle of our humanity that we can only keep from atrophying if we exercise it habitually. I sit in the clearing behind Wisewood, listening to the song of the barn swallows mixed with the sound of cars speeding by. I watch the milk current through my tea, and little leaves dance free from their pouch. I linger in the mirror, and I don't look away. I trace the shadows hugging my lips, and I don't look away. Awe is not a lens through which to see the world, but our sole path to seeing. Any other lens is not a lens, but a veil. And I've come to believe that our beholding, seeing the veils of this world peeled back again and again, if only for a moment, is no small form of salvation. Isn't that amazing? It's no small form of salvation. When we really pay attention, when we really see things, when we're in awe by the world around us, and in awe could be in devastation, or it could be in wonder and amazement. It could be the beauty, or it could be, just a myriad and host of other things. But when we really experience life, the world around us, the beauty of the sunset, but also the gray dismalness in its entirety of a misty morning, feel that feeling. Seek that, the depth of it, right? We can only speculate who the Magi really were, Were they kings? Were they wise men? Were they men at all? How many were there? Were they royalty? Were they just were they astrologers? Who, what? We're not given a lot of information. You can see behind me, there's a beautiful banner that we have here at Mays Chapel. Kings, right? That's our, we three kings of Orient, right? That's the song we sing. And yet, let's not skip over the fact that we really don't know. I think there's some wonder and joy in the sparse nature of the detail around this story. They came from the East. Oh, okay. But we can learn a lot about the wise people, the wise men, through what they did. They observed the star. They discerned that it is pointing them to the divine. They decide to make that arduous journey. They cross over geographical, political, religious, ethnic, and cultural boundaries to seek out a newborn king. They let themselves be filled with joy, and they allow themselves to be humbled, bowing down before him, before this child, offering gifts. They listen intuitively to their dreams, and they're able to evade Herod, who's angered that they deceived him. They chose maybe a harder road home. But all of these actions were specific and intentional. Seeking isn't just, if I happen to find, I look down and I see this beautiful seashell. But then are you going to apply yourself to the task? For me, it was a simple, glorious couple of afternoons on the beach. For them, it was a life-changing moment or event. You know? What are you seeking? Looking closely at the actions of the Magi, we can learn, what does it look like to be a seeker? We're all seeking something, really. Herod reacted differently to the news that there was a new king being born. You know, the Magi brought with them some sense of naivete in their approaching another king, about a new king, right? Going into another person's realm, another person's domain, and saying, hey, you know, there's this new king being born. We would love to, you know, could you point us in the right direction? It's a little, you know, and Herod reacts, he's frightened. That's what his response is. Now, what is Herod seeking? That he's frightened. He's seeking power, control. All of Jerusalem with him. Now, in the moment, all of Jerusalem were probably seeking some sense of calm. You know, Herod could be, you know, had power that they certainly didn't have. So they needed and wanted him to be placated in some way, in some manner. What was Herod seeking? What were the people of Jerusalem seeking? And what did they do as a consequence to that? Herod has a lot of blood on his hands because of his seeking power and, you know, his claim. And the people in Jerusalem, what are they seeking? And what are they doing or not doing in order to claim that? It's interesting to note that in Luke, the same root word that describes Herod in the Gospel of Matthew describes Herod as being disturbed at the news that he hears about the Christ child. It's the same root word that Mary heard, explained Mary's troubled nature when she first heard the news from the angel. But they chose much different paths. What was Mary seeking? Mary was seeking to live out her life in accordance with God's will. Let it be with me according to your word. You know, it took her a moment, right? You have to sift through, okay, how am I going to adapt myself to this new news? Where are you at the beginning of 2023? Where are you? And what are you seeking this year? Everybody is seeking something. It's best to probably articulate that so that you can really be in control of your actions. So take a few moments, you know, pull out that journal. What are you seeking? What are you willing to risk to be seeking after the sacred, to be seeking after the Christ child, to be seeking after a deeper relationship with God, to be seeking after that? Well, a few moments of reminder of who we are, God's children, and to whom we belong to God and to one another. Go in God's grace, go in God's peace. Go knowing this day and every single day you are a beloved child of God. Amen.